Cash Flow Diary Podcast, episode 556.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cash Flow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cash Flow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cash Flow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because we are going to talk about something that I know you have dealt with, will deal with, and most importantly, if you're out there becoming a bigger, better, badder investor, business owner, growing your cash flow, it's something that you just can't avoid, right? Because they say things that are mandatory, the things that you can't escape. One of them is death, right? The death rate has been 100% for quite some time, except for a few exceptions. And taxes, like, man, the IRS, your taxing authority, for those of you in other countries, the FCA or whomever it is that is your taxing authority, you can't really avoid them. You have to deal with them. More importantly, here's what I'm going to say. As you go out there, if we become better at planning for them, then there are things, there are tools, there are strategies that are available that you just don't know what you don't know. You've heard it said before that what you don't know won't hurt you. Well, today's guest would absolutely, unequivocally say the exact opposite, meaning what you don't know can, has, and always will hurt you. Most importantly, cause you sometimes to make decisions faster than you need to, pay more taxes than you have to, and ultimately rob you of opportunity. I'm, of course, talking today with Brett Swarts. He's the founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. And what's interesting is that his business equips business professionals like you and I to be able to navigate what happens when you create a business and suddenly now the valuation is through the roof and you've got to figure out what to do. How do you keep the wealth that you've created? Well, we're going to talk about that and many more. Now, here's what we're going to do. I know some of you, you're watching, maybe you were watching TV and trying to listen to this passively. You're washing the dishes, walking the dog, changing a diaper, whatever it is. I want you to pay attention because these next few minutes, they can put some money in your pocket. So let's get ready to listen, love, and learn from Brett Swarts. Brett, how you doing?
Jay Massey, I'm better than I deserve. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad that you're here because you're talking about stuff that I know I care about, and I know that many people listening will care about as well. No, but before we get too far, I have to ask you the same question I tend to ask everybody else the first time that they're here. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. So I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes, Batman, Robin, Hulk, Wonder Woman, etc. You get the idea, because I think entrepreneurs and, superheroes have a ton of things in common. For example, as an entrepreneur, I can envision myself occasionally flying around town, using our products and services to save customers one sale at a time. I can also see a situation in which, an entrepreneur is like a superhero, especially at the beginning. So if you think about Spider-Man, there was a time where he was just a kid going to school, doing his thing. And then one day he gets bit by a spider, discovers, hey, I have a superhuman ability. And now he's presented with the choice. How am I going to use it, for good or for evil? So my question to you is as follows. Before being a commercial real estate broker, before your 5 kids, before your wife, who you call a rock star, before basketball, before your company, Capital Gains Tax Solutions, before helping all of the investors and business owners that you have, what we want to know is, who is Brett Swarts?
Great question. So, well, I think location and different events in life cause different character traits to come out. I guess you could call them, in this scenario, the superhero traits, right? I think, first of all, I'm a Christian, and I believe that God's given us each different gifts to help one another and to praise Him with what He's given us. So starting out, I was real young though, but it wasn't always that way, right? I mean, even to this day, my mom's a believer, my dad's not, and we're praying for him, and we hope that he does come to faith. But growing up, I had kind of both worldviews. My parents were divorced when I was 6, and I didn't know the difference, until I was about 12. And during that time, it forged the I guess curiosity and the perseverance, regardless of circumstances, to grow. And a lot of times when you're a kid, you're just living. You don't know the difference between these things until you're about 12, 14. So I would start there. That was a big moment of change, and it kind of changed the trajectory of my life. And with that, God provided really godly leaders and mentors in my life, such as basketball coaches, football coaches, such as youth pastors, such as my grandmother, who was like a second mom and dad. And that taught me that, even if we're dealt a tough hand, and even if we're dealt some challenges, they can be used to forge character and grow. And so as a part of that too, I was one of nine, I guess call it cousins, brothers, in a row. There's about 9 of us in a row. We're all real close. Wow. And I was the second youngest of those 9. And I was always the guy who just liked to learn from people's mistakes. I didn't want to do them myself per se, right? And so I just would observe. And I guess which led me, I guess, to the first superhero would be, I'm more the tortoise and the hare, Jay Massey. Meaning I may not get it right away, but if I get it, I tend to get it and just run with it and make it better, because I just keep driving and persisting with curiosity and wanting to learn and being coachable. And was never afraid to do something outside the box. So that would be my first, I guess, superhero trait, if you will, that I would look at others and see either what they're doing correctly or wisely, be a better term for that, or they're doing maybe poorly, and say, I don't want to do that. And then I would pray and ask God to help me do those things that I was supposed to be doing, because there was plenty of opportunity to do things that perhaps would have took me down a different route. So that was the early years. And then moving on, I went into college and I just, learned, studying business for the first time. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but during that time, I also had a mentor who happened to be my older cousin. And he taught me that, hey, you might want to look at commercial real estate. You might want to look at, consulting and investment real estate. And so by chance, I took an interview at a company called Marcus & Millichap, and I started to learn about investment real estate. And I would, I guess, introduce the second, I guess, superhero trait is as a part of the first, which is persistence, because it happened during the 2008 crash, where I came on just before that and was just getting going, and everything fell apart. And so as a part of that journey, I just kept going. I mean, I'm telling you, I love the business. I love the competition. I loved helping people. I loved adding value to somebody who was much further along in life and much further successful, and being able to hear their story and say, can I just become a part of your team? I'm going to find out a way to add value to you. And during that journey, I learned that as soon as you know as much or more than somebody in their business or their piece of real estate is the moment you start adding value. So I would just try to pick up bits and pieces from every other owner I was talking with, try to consolidate them, and then try to say, hey, this might be helpful for you. And along those lines, I didn't make much money, by the way, starting out. It was bad. I mean, $25,000, $40,000, zero for a couple of years. And everyone said, you're crazy. Go get a real job. You got a wife at home, a baby on the way. And I go, that's okay. I'm going to move in with my brother. I'm going to make this happen. I feel God's given me this gift and this calling to bless people through investment real estate. And I said, I'm going to keep going. So I got side jobs and side hustles. I worked basketball tournaments on the weekends. I actually worked at a restaurant during the night. So I guess this is a good analogy, Jay Massey. By day, I was in my tie, right? Remember we talked about the tie earlier? And I'm making these calls that people are trying to sell multi-million-dollar buildings. Okay? Right. But by night, or not even by night, I mean, I'm just driving over from the office, Marcus & Millichap. I'm taking off my tie, and I'm going into the restaurant, and I'm putting on my new outfit, right? And I'm serving. And there was one time in particular, Jay, where I saw the same like potential target client in the other part of the restaurant. And I'm going, oh my, just whatever I got to do, don't go along that route, right? Because I could be calling him the next day. So, but I just kept going, regardless of the society in general, right? We're always talking about persevering or results, and having to have it now. And I would say I didn't have to have it now. I took the trait of, I guess, the honey badger is another trait I picked up along the way, that no matter what, I'm just going to keep going, whether I have to cut expenses, work side jobs. But the biggest thing was my wife. She was the support, right? And she was all in with me, right? And I knew I had a team member with me, and I wasn't just by myself. She was willing to live with my brother in his condo. She was willing to look into the future beyond just what the current circumstances were. So I'll pause there because I know I just said a lot, and I'm still processing what I just said too, because it was such a good question.
Yeah. Well, that's why I've learned to take notes, because when you ask the right question and you unlock something, you just never know what's going to happen. But there's so much I think for everyone to take away and to understand is that a lot of who you identify as, whom you are today, has to do with, well, where you started, how you grew up, and some of the things that you, not just the events that happened, but how you chose to respond to them. Because there were times, and the thing that I'm thinking about the most right at this moment is the idea of being dealt a challenge. Because I know there's a number of people who have wanted to start a business in some way, shape, or form, or have started a business and they've experienced a challenge. Now, similarly, I too got started in the real estate world around 2008. In fact, it was June 18th, 2008 is when I closed my very first real estate transaction as a principal and investor. So that was the very first one, and it kind of continued from there. So I understand the hustle and I understand the desire, but here's something that I think that would be of value. When it comes to being who you are today, who you have become for other people, do you think that's possible without having experienced the challenges that you just mentioned?
As I get older and I get mature and I look back, I don't think so, right? I think we were forged in the fire. And what is the fire? I mean, for me, it was 110-degree hell week football, right? It was waking up at 6 a.m. and going and shooting hoops early during football season to be able to play basketball and be able to transition quicker and be a top scorer on the team. It was, walking on to Point Loma Nazarene University in San Diego as a walk-on, even though I wanted to play college hoops, and just getting better every single day, and eventually achieving a scholarship to William Jessup University. I mean, it was the divorce, right? It was the parents, and seeing that there's a right way to treat and care for people and to prepare yourself for maturity for marriage, and there's also a wrong way, and those things can set you up for success in a relationship or failure. And part of that was learning to just focus and try to listen to what God wanted me to do in a season. Like, for example, when I went away to college, I didn't date anybody for a year. My whole freshman year, I just said, I got to focus. Because in school, I was kind of an entrepreneur, maybe someone like your listeners, where school was kind of, in a sense, sort of boring. I love the social aspect. I love the competitive basketball sports aspect, and mathematics and history. I love those subjects, but some of the other subjects, English was okay too. We're kind of, I wasn't as good as science or foreign language or different things, so I kind of checked out. I just did enough to get by. But my freshman year of college, I'm going, okay, I got to get serious on studying, on reading, and actually learning how to be intelligent, right, as best as I could. And as a part of that, I just focused 100% on schoolwork and 100% on basketball. And not having a distraction with girls, because girls can be a distraction for men, as you probably know. No clue. No, that never. So that was a growing period for me. And it also, and then I met my beautiful wife, Melanie, and we've been married for 10 years now. And I think if if you allow, for me, again, it goes back to my faith. If you allow God to put you through those seasons, and despite our sense of we've got to take control and we got to have things in a certain time period, and we don't force things. And I'm definitely it's hard for me because I'm a driver A personality, competitor, want to push. But I got to learn to relieve control and kind of just have faith in God. And that's helped me a lot. So hopefully that answers your question there. I don't know if that does or not, but yeah, 100%. The background and the things that happen are there for a reason. And if you have faith and you persevere, it can be a really positive. And I guess the best part about that is God can bring something's dead back to life, So even though the, call it the divorce or the troubles or the tragedy and the background of my life, He's brought life out of all of that. I have a great relationship with my dad. I love him. I have a great relationship with my mom. I love her. We're very close as a family, and despite all of what could have been so much worse, He's brought a lot of it back to life. And that's what He's in the business of doing. And that's what I just like to be a part of it.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a while. Pretty good at it. Got a great track record. Totally understood. Now, one of the things that you said that I know that I experienced very similarly was the environment. When you're first starting out, the environment, your friends, your family, those who care about you and are saying great things. But sometimes they say things that are not in alignment with what you called your calling, which I can absolutely relate to when they said, hey, why don't you just go get a real job? I'm curious to hear from you. What was it that allowed you, that gave you the ability to go, you know what? I could. However, this is where I need to be. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I'm glad that you are enjoying what you are hearing thus far. But here's one of the things that's really important. One of the most important things that you can do is get started. One of the things that I've said before, and I say again, once you get started, stay started. But more importantly, there can be lots of roadblocks to getting started. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove one of those roadblocks for you and make it a little bit easier. Because the thing that I don't want to stop you is thinking, do I need a local number? How about a long distance number? Or should it be 800? How on earth am I going to make that happen so that people can contact me as I'm out there building my business, making my cash flow grow? But most importantly, understanding that it doesn't have to be difficult. Many of you may know, but if you don't, there's a company out there by the name of Grasshopper. And what I want you to do is I want you to go over to trygrasshopper.com/cashflow diary. Grasshopper is the entrepreneur's phone system. It works like a traditional phone system, but requires no hardware to purchase, no software to install. It's just a number that flat works. So if you are out there building that distributed workforce across many different locations, it's a way for you to still go out there and make your number be unified, simple, easy to use, something we've been using for quite some time. So again, go over to trygrasshopper.com/cashflow diary. Now, let's get back to the rest of the story.
Growing up, as part of going back to the background again, since you have my thoughts there, I don't want to say it in a bad way, but I just didn't care. I cared about the people I cared about, right? And I cared about those who were with me, and I guess in a sense, and I'm a very loyal person, but I wasn't a big one to really try to please people or even teachers sometimes to my detriment, or even coaches to my detriment. I was always pretty independent in that way. So that's, I think, good and bad for the entrepreneur, right? Again, like with anything else, you got to be respectful and you got to learn authority and you got to learn how to be humble. And so I was kind of, a little bit of a mean kid growing up because I just didn't really care, So, but at the flip side of it, when I learned how to respect and love and humble and accept authority through the fire of sports, right? Mainly is the biggest one. Then after that, I still had the positives of not having to worry about the noise. And just be deadly focused on what I think God wants me to do and where I want my dreams to be, right? And it didn't matter. And as long as my wife was on board, because I always say she's the boss, right? I go back, you're the boss. If you're not in on this, then we're not going to be able to do this together. So Are you okay with this, right? Are you on board with this? This is what it looks like. This is the plan. This is the vision. This is the purpose. This is why we're doing what we're doing. And when she was on board and I felt like I was in God's, will, then I just kept going. It's just whatever it takes to keep going. So I don't know. I can't really explain that. It's like, how are you motivated? Are we self-motivated versus is God just give it to us? Where does that fire come from? I don't know. I'm not really sure. I do think it's a gift that God's given me too. But I think I have had so much support, so much family, so much prayer, so many coaches, so many people who gave and invested into me. I mean, on and on and on and on. And all of that has enabled me to become who I've become. I did a reflection on all of the coaches, the major coaches in my life, who were a lot of ways like father figures for me, right? Because my parents were divorced and I basically lived with my mom most of the time. And my dad was amazing too in his own right. He was an entrepreneur, a business owner, a real estate investor, loved us and cared for us in so many ways. But a lot of the time I was out with my mom. So I would go to school and then I'd have the basketball coach or the football coach and the youth pastor, and all of them pouring into me helped me become the person that I am today. So without that, and the older brother who was my best friend, best man, a guy I looked up to, right, had my back no matter what. I mean, we were always still so close. I just look at all the people that God blessed me with, and I'm just really grateful for that. And now it's an opportunity to give back. So that would be my best explanation for that.
Got it. So on this journey, and like every other entrepreneur / superhero that I have ever met, there's always this point where we're bumbling along, so to speak, and trying to figure things out. But then we suddenly realize, oh my gosh, I have a superpower. I have something that other people either don't, or I have it to a greater degree. And people appreciate this, this thing that I can do or provide, etc. I would love to hear how you discovered, what you have discovered that has now become, your company.
Yes. So the story of the company and how that relates. So part of my personality type has always been persistence, and it's also been, I guess, I want to say multitasking for things that I care about. So, for example, I have 2 degrees and a minor, and I did that in 5 years in college while playing basketball and scholarship and taking an internship at Marcus and Millichap. Well, those are all things I really cared about. And along the way, though, if I don't have a challenge or something that's engaging my mind or my emotions or my spiritual walk, I tend to get bored. When I get bored, it's not good,
Yeah. Oh, I know too much about that. Ask my wife.
Yeah, I get bored. It's not good. So if I can be, there's a challenge or an opportunity or something, that's when I'm best on my game. My best example was during basketball season. I was so focused. I'm spending the time I should be studying. I'm spending the time. Everything was so regimented, right? After basketball season, it'd be, March Madness comes around, season ends. And it's just, I'm in San Diego too, which also doesn't, is a big distraction too.
There's always the beach distraction, weather, distraction.
And my discipline just falls off, and so.
It's too good to be disciplined today. Yeah, totally understood.
Yeah. So along those lines, during Marcus and Millichap, we learned about a strategy called the Deferred Sales Trust. And at the time, people were looking for ways to add value beyond the 1031 exchange, to unlock capital, to help people solve their real challenge, which was retiring and diversifying. And so like the tortoise, like I told you before, I kind of just poked the bear for a while. Who's the bear? Well, it's the estate planning team, and a co-founder, Robert Binkley. He founded. He actually played for the 49ers. He's a mentor of mine, business partner of mine now. And I started to just study the structure and the strategy. And the same thing occurred, by the way. There was about 30 guys in the room who were able to see this same presentation. And only a couple really even paid attention. And even so, I just kept learning a little bit more about it over the years. And I started sending referrals. And it started to grow more, and it started to really serve a need for a lot of people who didn't want to do another 1031, who didn't want to get stuck in overpaying for property, who didn't want to get stuck in the 180-day sprint, who didn't want to go into more debt, wanted to get out of debt. And really the 2008 crisis too, I saw a lot of people get hit so hard they lost everything, right? Because they overpaid because they felt they were forced to buy something through the 1031. They knew of no real alternative that they'd liked, and then some of them lost everything. So I really saw the pieces, especially Sacramento. Sacramento was one of the hardest hit in the nation for the boom and the bust. So fast forward 10 years, about almost 11 years now, I got my Series 22, my Series 63, And Robert manages all my own money, and we've done some real estate deals together. And it was just a natural progression where he said, look, I want you to be one of our trustees and educators. I want you to go out and educate the financial advisors, the business brokers, and the commercial real estate brokers, the commercial real estate syndicators, the high-end realtors. And I want you to empower them with this strategy so they can help more people defer capital gains tax. And so I launched it. I said, great, I'll do it. I want to do it. I want to do it alongside commercial real estate because I still do that too, but it's a natural connection there. Absolutely. So it wasn't taking away from the other. It was only adding to it. So I can walk into a presentation and say, hey, look, you can do a 1031 and great, let's go for it. But in case it fails, let's have a backup plan. Day 46 or day 181, the Deferred Sales Trust can save a failed 1031. It's so valuable, Jay, that it doesn't take up any of the spots either. It's not like it's going to take up one, 2, or 3 spots.
Wow.
So it's not taking away from anything, and it's only cost you something if you use the structure. So, I mean, there's been over 7 or 8 failed 1031 exchanges that have been saved in the past 6 months alone. So that right there, you could say, is the reason to do it, right? The next reason would be the estate tax, right? The estate tax is a really big one. So for any of your ultra high net worth listeners right now who are worth more than $22 million or $11 million and they're single, they're faced with what's called the death tax, meaning anything left inside of their taxable estate is going to be hit with a 40% tax. Okay, so imagine you're worth $52 million, Jay, and hopefully either you are or someday you will be, right? And let's imagine all $52 million is inside your taxable estate. And let's just say the first $22 million was exempt. That other $30 million is going to be hit with a 40% tax, which is the death tax. That's $12 million. So the Deferred Sales Trust solves that, and that we can move it all outside the taxable estate in one single transaction. So the intent is to not pay that tax. The intent is to get it outside the taxable estate. But unfortunately, a lot of the solutions that are out there are very slow and they're incremental, meaning you can't get enough. You can't get enough
in there. Yeah. But so let me ask okay. I really want to nerd out with you right now and go down this deep rabbit hole, but I don't want to leave anybody behind either.
Absolutely.
Because we, while I have understood what you said, we just want to make sure that everyone comes along with us. When you say, let's just start with something very basic. Well, the 1031, explain for us, if you will, what that is so that everyone can have the same understanding. And then I'm going to ask you some more questions that will help them illustrate why you specifically pointed out day 46, 181, et cetera, and some of the other things that we're talking about.
Absolutely. So let's say Jay and I own a 20-unit apartment complex in Los Angeles.
Too small, but okay. Sounds good. Let's start there.
We bought it in 08 in foreclosure, or 09 in foreclosure, right? So we bought it for $75,000 a unit. And now it's worth $275,000 a unit. We've added value.
That sounds right.
We've done all the things we're supposed to do. So we're going to make a killing, right? As a part of that, we have a gain, and so we want to defer it.
Yep.
So let's just imagine we're selling it for $4 million. Okay, so
sounds great.
$4 million, which may not be doing the math there, right? But let's call it 5. Okay, so $5 million. We have to buy something through a trade. It's like trading it, okay, within a certain period of time to defer the tax, as long as it's like kind. So we can sell this 20-unit apartment complex and buy another apartment complex, and that's it. We still have to do it in a certain time period, and therefore we can defer all that taxable gain, which could be probably, $2 million that we would have paid in tax if we didn't do a deferral. So It's basically trading one property for another within a time period to defer the tax.
Now, and so that everyone's clear, what you're also bringing up, though, is that part of the challenge is not like that's bad. The challenge is, and this is what I was alluding to earlier, was that sometimes if that's the only tool in your belt, you'll be put in a situation, or you could put yourself in a situation in which you're forced to make a decision that may not necessarily be best because you have a 46-day window. So could you explain to them what happens on that with these time frames that you're stuck between?
Yes, so the 1031 exchange is a great tax deferral strategy. However, there's some shortcomings to every strategy that you want to look at. And the first one we call is the candle burning at both ends, Jay, okay?
Yep.
And this represents your return. And let's imagine there's something burning and something burning here. And as it gets smaller, your return gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So what's burning? The first thing is burning, in this, particularly in this marketplace, is it's a seller's market for most markets. Meaning, if you sell today and buy 180 days later, you're likely paying more and overpaying perhaps.
Yeah.
and also maybe even a higher interest rate. Okay, so that's part of your candle that's burning. Although recently it's kind of gone back down, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say the interest rate is not that big of an issue today, but still buying at the wrong time, it could definitely is the case.
Yeah, so generally speaking, the question is, do you think it's a seller's market and wherever you're at? And by the way, the market is a big market. It can be the U.S., and you may want to diversify, right? But the point is, if you're just buying and selling in the same marketplace in the same time period, that's what happened in the 08 hit. People overpaid for 04, 05, 06, 07 by doing multiple 1031 exchanges. The music stopped. So that's the first thing. Are you overpaying for a property 180 days later from the property you just sold? Are you buying and selling in the same marketplace? Our parents taught us to sell high and buy low. The 1031 exchange too often means we're selling high and buying higher 180 days later, which means that candle is burning. Your return's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The second thing is debt. Debt is not your friend in a highly appreciated, overpriced marketplace.
Right.
1031, unfortunately, requires you to buy something of equal or greater value. Meaning, if you have debt on that property, you're likely having to replace that debt or even go into more debt. So if Jay and I sold that $5 million deal and we had $3 million in debt on that deal, okay, we're gonna unless we come with all cash and buy something at $5 million, we're gonna have to take on that debt on the next deal or more. So that's often what happens. You're replacing the debt and replacing the purchase price. So that's not good, right? In a highly appreciated market, you don't want to take on more debt. You want to get out of debt. So the intent is to take on smart debt when it makes sense, right? When the market's a buyer's market, okay? So what is dumb debt? Dumb debt is overpaying and taking on too much debt. The Deferred Sales Trust solves that in that we just take the proceeds, Jay. So we can sell that $5 million deal. Okay. $3 million debt is paid off, and the $2 million goes into the trust, all tax deferred. The powder is dry. And it's the ability to go back in whenever we want with no timing restriction. Yeah,
I was going to that you actually hit the point that I was going to say. So you're saying, let me take it to the extreme. Do I have to go back in ever, or can I just completely stay out if I want to? Or
that's the beauty of the Deferred Sales Trust. It's not a 1031 exchange. It's an installment sale by a tax code. Okay. And which means it has separate rules. Okay, so section IRC 453 is the tax code versus section 1031 exchange. So they're both tax deferral strategies, but they're separate laws, meaning we don't have to do the 45-180. We don't have to put it in like-kind real estate. In fact, we can put it in stocks, bonds, mutual funds if you're choosing. We can put it in, you can do hard money lending with the money. You can put it into a business startup. You can put it into commercial real estate. And this is the single biggest reason I started this company. Because I want people to be able to get out of debt when they want it to. I want people to be able to get their powder dry if they want to. And I want people to be able to retire from the toilets, the trash, the liability, the employees, right? This is a stat for you and your audience. According to the American Bankers Association, about $17 trillion will pass from one generation to the next in the next 20 years. Yeah. And this is the largest wealth transfer in the history of the planet that we know of. Okay, and it's by a generation called the baby boomers. And in fact, there's about 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every single day in the U.S. And there's 77 million alone in the U.S. Okay, and what they're struggling with is, how do I sell my highly appreciated asset? By the way, a lot of them have made their wealth for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They don't need any more wealth. They just need to be able to diversify and get out of debt. And they just went through the 08 crisis 10 years ago. And by the way, or 11 years ago, they're 11 years older than they were then. And they don't want to go through that again. They actually want to get out. And so we say, get out. Diversify, get liquid, but don't get out completely of real estate. Start diversifying your real estate portfolio. Maybe you put $1 million into a Jay Massey deal. Maybe you put $1 million into a Kevin Butt mobile home park deal. Maybe you put $500,000 into a Joe Fairless deal. Whatever. Diversify with multiple operators and multiple locations, right? Just like you would if you put it into stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, right? Yeah. So whatever you want to do. The point is you have the ability to do that. So that's what they're challenged with. And the other thing, too, is just time, right? So we only have so much time on this earth. At a certain point, a lot of our business owners in particular want to retire now. Maybe they have young kids. They want to travel the world. And I'll give you an example of a deal. Okay. It's a veterinarian. And this is near Stockton, California. Sure. And his biggest reason for looking at the Deferred Sales Trust was the ability to sell now and net the same amount of money that he would have if he had to wait another 5, 10, 15 years at $6 million. So let's walk through it. So the practice is worth about $4.5 million. He has a zero basis. By the way, he's living the American dream. He came over from India, started with nothing, got educated, started a business, and has made a massive amount of wealth through this business. But he's also 45, 2 kids, wife. He wants young kids, kind of wants to travel the world, wants a little more freedom. He wants to be able to capitalize on this highly appreciated marketplace right now to sell his business, rather than what happened to Stockton, by the way. Stockton was one of the hardest hit in the entire nation when everything crashed. So he can sell his business now at $4.5 million, defer all the tax. He would have paid about $1.5 million in tax. So instead of having 3, he has 4.5. Okay, and he goes, Brett, in order to get 4.5 without your strategy, I need about 6.
Right.
So you're giving me back time. In order to get to 6, which I may or may not be able to get there, but if I get there, it could take me 5, 10, or 15 years. But I can sell now and net the same amount, which solves my internal motivation, which is time and travel with my family. And then, oh, by the way, can I get back into the business when I want to come back? Yes. So you can use up to 80% of that $4.5 million to go back into and start your new business venture. So we call it the Go Fund Yourself, Jay Massey. So, there's GoFundMe and there's Capitalist, right? And that's all great, right?
Yeah.
But how about you fund yourself with your own tax-deferred money, right, to fund your new business venture, which you can do, okay? As long as it's business purpose or investment real estate, you can do that. So I'll pause there because I just said it a lot and know your brain's probably spinning.
Yeah, well, so there's a number of things that are going through my head. One is, if it's going to be treated as a deferred sale, typically there's an incremental amount of tax due relative to anything that's above cost basis in any particular given tax year. So how does that work? So, what meaning, let's say we take this situation to where, kind of hypothetically, but not so much, we've done this and now there's $10 million in this account or whatever we want to call it that would have been taxable, but maybe for the next 2 years, I don't want to do anything. Is there some sort of incremental recapture or something that's happening, or how is that going to work? Or do I truly get to just let it sit there, and so long as I use it for the correct purposes, there's nothing that's going to be taken from it?
Yeah, so there's a couple rules. So it's typically $5 million per person. Okay, so if you're married, it's 10, and it's per year. So $5 million per person per year. Okay. So we've done things where we stagger the sale. So imagine it was a $20 million sale. Okay?
Yeah.
And it was husband and wife. And perhaps we can structure the sale for December 15th to do a partial deferred sales trust, and then we wait and we sell the rest of it January 1st.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so there's some nuance there. But even if it were a little bit more, you can still do it. The government just wants a little bit of interest on that. And
see.
So that is now for the ultra high net worth individuals. There's a different structure where we eliminate that completely, which this kind of goes into the brain surgery part of it. Okay. So who are the brain surgeons, Jay? I'm not the brain surgeon. I'm just the nurse. So I just take your pulse and I say, Jay, it looks like you got maybe a case of the capital gains tax and depreciation recapture bug going around. How about we check you in and have you check out with the brain surgeon? Who's that? That's the CPA and tax attorney who created this structure. Who's that? It's Campbell Law Firm out of Kansas City, Missouri. But more than that, we want to say, Jay, bring in your own CPA and tax attorney who are brain surgeons too, and make sure you guys marry up. And let's look at those little nuances for your particular scenario. Now, on our side, we don't charge anything unless you do the deal. So we'll literally do all the tax, legal work, preparation, ROI, and we'll say, Jay, here's option A or option B. Use it if you like.
Right.
We'd love the opportunity to help you out. But yeah, there are some nuances there that we'll have to work out. But back to answer your other part of the question is, yeah, you can delay the payments. So you could say, look, I $10 million in there. I don't need any income right now.
Yeah.
Let's just delay that income until maybe I move to a more tax-friendly state.
Right.
Or perhaps when I start to need the money. And we have to say it's your money. When do you want to receive it? And when you receive it, there's tax consequences, whether it be ordinary income or whether it be you dipping into the principal and you're paying capital gains tax.
Okay, hold on. Stop right there. So let's pretend that now I'm in a situation in which I am receiving the income. Can I still use that against I'm receiving income from that, but I'm still I still have my real estate portfolio going. Maybe I've got other sources as well. But specifically what I'm referring to is, can my Section 179 deductions also write that off, or at least be counted against that income, or is that going to be treated separately?
Great question. Yeah. So let me answer it this way by walking you through how this would typically work. Okay. And then we can get to the nuances. So
sure.
$10 million is in the trust. You close tomorrow. It's in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds.
Yep.
2 years from now, the market shifts, and all of a sudden in LA, that $5 million deal is now worth $4 million. Okay. And you're like, I want to buy that deal. It's on a discount. It used to be worth $5 million. It's worth $4 million.
I'll take $3 million.
Jay Massey, you form a brand new LLC, and you literally partner with your trust in a 90-10 partnership.
Okay. Got it.
And you go buy that deal. You're the managing member of that LLC, and that trust can put up all $4 million of the down payment as a 10% silent partner. Okay, so now you're owning that deal just like you would have.
Hold on. Wait. You're saying I don't, because when we do that type of thing, say with a retirement plan, it has to be like pari passu, or at least, relative to the amount they contributed.
Correct. Yeah, you're talking about like SEP IRA.
Talking
about self-directed Roths. Right. Those are different vehicles, different rules. Remember I talked about 1031?
Okay. Yeah.
It's different than the IRC 453. It's different than the SEP IRA. It's different than the Roth. It's different than the 401k. So this is the cool part, right? It's just like owning it the normal way you would. You just happen to be partnering with, we'll call it Jay Massey's. Where do you live, Jay, again? What city?
I'm in Laguna Hills. And you're saying I can still have personal benefit from this?
Yes, 100%. 100%. You're just partnering with your trust, okay? And this is the beauty of it, right? This is the part where you're going to be sleeping at night and your brain's going to start turning, going, oh my gosh, how have I been missing this? It seems like it's too good to be true. It seems like I would have heard of it. It seems like my CPA would have gone. And we can get into all the legal part and actually the mechanics of this too. But the point is, this is what you can absolutely do. You can go buy a deal by partnering with your, and in that you can do accelerated depreciation, okay? And in that can offset your income, especially if it's passive or active, depending on those little nuances for the CPA, to offset that income that's coming in from those sources. So as far as the Section 179, I'd have to defer to the brain surgeon on that one.
Understood.
In your particular scenario, right?
Understood.
That's some nuances there, but I think the answer would be positive for you.
Yeah, no, yeah. And hearing what I'm hearing, the answer is probably yes. You're probably right. And I get that you're not the brain surgeon. So this is going to, I'm getting a little excited right now. Because I am constantly looking, because as an entrepreneur, and again, I know you know this, but for those of you who are listening, as an entrepreneur, one of the things that you are doing is you are building equity, usually from zero, and your cost basis is darn near zero when it comes time for you to actually exit or sell or do any of the things that you want to do outside of running your business per se. This is like a serious issue. And for those of you who have been following us and building your short-term rental businesses and making them grow, what you're hearing in my voice is excitement, because the value, because what you're saying in essence, this is what I'm taking away, if nothing else. What you're saying is we not only do we get to keep the funds, we still have functional control. Brett, without incurring the penalty first, because typically we have to take the penalty and control what's left. But you're saying, no, I don't have to take that penalty. I can keep control and do something else with it, and then decide how. You're just basically giving me control over how much I want to pay in tax and when, if ever. Precisely.
You said it. I don't know if I could say it any better than that. Think of it like this.
Okay.
You're like a lender. You're like a bank, okay? And as a bank, you're going to want to put money different places to get your return. So this is, in essence, an installment note. And this might be a good time where your listeners are probably thinking, how does this thing all work? There's a lot of big promises there. So let's walk through this,
Sure.
How it works. So again, $10 million deal. Jay's got to sell. Imagine he has a zero basis. He's about to pay $4 million in tax. Okay. So we always start with, what is your capital gains tax and depreciation recapture liability?
A lot.
It's $4 million, Jay. Okay. And you go, Jay, do you want to pay? They go, no. Do you want to do 1031? Not necessarily. Okay. By the way, if it's a business owner, Really, I've yet to meet a business owner who's done a 1031 because it's so complicated.
Yeah,
so
how would you? Yeah, trying to find that's exactly what I was thinking.
Let's just say a business owner, there's no 1031 option, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, for a primary homeowner, we just did a deal in Newport Beach. There's a $20+ million sale for a primary homeowner. As you probably know about the 121 exclusion, which
so the 250 or the 500 is fine,
250, 500, right?
Yeah, but after that, before today, we didn't have a solution. So please enlighten us, Brett.
So that particular deal, they owed $6 million in capital gains tax, Jay. They had to sell. They needed to sell now. And we helped them defer $6 million. So, Jay, do you have any friends in Newport Beach or Laguna, Niguel or Laguna Hills or all those places who perhaps could have some help here? And also think about this.
Yeah.
That was an illiquid asset, right? It was a liability, really.
Right.
Okay. Illiquid asset, not producing cash flow. They're living in it. They can transfer that to liquidity, diversification, pay off the debt, and defer the $6 million in capital gains tax. Okay, so they sold it. They were so happy. All the funds, all the proceeds went to the trust, and they deferred $6 million, and they're living off the interest right now. And here's the best part. They're waiting for a commercial real estate deal. They're waiting for a Jay Massey to show up with that $4 million value-add multifamily deal, that they can get passive into that and even more diversified and get more of the benefits of the depreciation write-off versus the income. Okay, so back to the deal, though, okay? So $10 million, you're going to sell it. You have a $4 million tax liability. And we come to you and we say, Jay, tell you what, you already have a buyer lined up. The buyer's ready to go. He's in a 1031. He is hot and heavy to buy your property. And you're like, I can't turn down that $10 million. It's just a really good offer. But I don't want a 1031 and get in the same position he's in. So here's what we're going to do. Instead of taking that direct $10 million from him, Jay, and therefore you've received what's called actual receipt of the funds, which means the tax is triggered. We're going to jump in. The trust is, we're going to call it J. Massey's Deferred Sales Trust. It's going to jump in right in between. And it's actually going to buy your position for $10 million.
Understood.
It's going to give you a zero down payment, Jay. So, Jay, if you receive a zero down payment, how much tax is due today?
None.
Zero. You got it.
Okay.
Now, if the trust turns around and sells it to that buyer for $10 million, and the $10 million goes into the trust, it bought for $10 million and sold for $10 million. So how much taxes does J. Massey's Deferred Sales Trust owe if it had a zero gain?
Also zero.
That's it. It's as simple as that. The funds are sitting in the trust, tax deferred. J. Massey has a payment schedule. Typically, it's about 8%, depending on your risk tolerance.
Okay.
And you can decide to receive all of that or some of that or a portion of that. And as long as you don't dip into the principal, you're in a tax deferral state. We just did an installment sale. Now, we did a manufactured creative installment sale, which is, by the way, what the IRS said. They said, you guys, the 14 IRS audits. Okay, if anyone ever comes to you with a brand new tax deferral strategy, you should ask them, how many IRS audits? But before we done 14, all no change. But before we move on, I want to make sure you understand what just happened with that first part.
Sure. I had one question, though. Well, a new question. In this process, is there a TPA or third-party administrator required?
So that's me. That's where we jump in, right?
Okay.
So I'm the third-party trustee.
Got it.
Actually, the owner and the beneficiary of the trust. You're the creditor.
Understood.
Just like a bank would be. If Chase Manhattan Bank wanted to give Jay a loan on an apartment complex, Jay owns the property, but he took a loan, right? So they have rights and they have protections in place that they will receive the payment back from their investment in case you sell it or whatever, right? And they also have rights in place to make sure that you have fire insurance, that a certain occupancy, that you're sending reporting and income and expenses. So there's a number of protections in place to make sure that you're receiving that income.
So let me ask this. Is there an exclusion for like whole life insurance? And if I wanted to, I'm getting really creative right now. So I just want to know.
What can the funds fund, right?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm asking.
Okay, yeah. So absolutely, there's creative life insurance opportunities, and we would say talk with a financial advisor. I don't manage the funds, by the way.
Sure.
I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just a trustee. But yes, you can use the funds to fund life insurance policies, which becomes very powerful. If you think about it, right? It's sort of like the government free loan to you at 0%. They say, Jay, you owe that money to us, that $4 million. But we're going to give you a 0% interest, and as long as you invest it, right, business purpose, which is very important. It's the same way the 1031 works, and it's in a business or commercial real estate or stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, which is actually really stimulating the economy. They don't want Jay to just take a $6 million, put it under his mattress. They want him to put all of it out into the marketplace so that more jobs are created, so that more people are paying taxes, right? So they're always going to get their cut in case people are wondering.
but that's what I was going to do anyway, is my point. My point is I was going to do that anyway to create more cash flow. So, and you're saying that cash flow doesn't have any other additional restrictions on it other than what would have already been there in the first place. It just gives me more purchasing power without having to take the haircut. And that's the part that
optimal timing when you want
to. That it's got
if you want to, right?
My good Lord.
With not equal or greater value, right? Maybe a business tech startup, right?
Right.
So for the tech entrepreneur, right? This is one of the best ones we think we have, and this is the internal motivation. So I'm going to dig in a little bit. So when a tech startup gets a Google or Facebook offer, right?
Yep.
An Apple offer for $50 million for their tech startup. What do? They typically do what's called the golden handcuffs, right? They say we're going to give you a bunch of stock, which is going to help you defer the tax, but we want you here for 5 or 10 years or whatever, right? And they're like, these guys are creators. They want to create something new. What we're saying is don't, just say thank you for the $50 million. I'm going to use my deferred sales trust. I'm not going to compete on that particular part, but I'm going to go start something new.
Right.
And with that, I'm going to fund that with what? My pre-tax dollars that I would have to be held at Apple or whatever, right? So we're freeing entrepreneurs to do what they were created to do, which is create more services, business, apps, whatever.
And that's the part that's the part I'm continually like, wow, okay, this is pretty awesome, because and I don't know if everyone's even catching how important that is at this particular moment in time, to being able to do that in this particular manner. But at the end of the day, what you're enabling and what this does is it's kind of, I mean, to say that it's powerful is like, I don't even have the right word, because there's so much value, economic value, that's lost to taxes when we try to sell something, that oftentimes, like because the other tool that I've used and that I think about all the time is being able to leverage, using the asset as collateral and taking a loan, especially if you have a stock portfolio or something that's not specifically, real estate related. But I like this better. I like what you're saying a lot better, because of the ability to have more control without having to necessarily, take a loan or deal with interest rates when you don't necessarily want to. Here's just a thought, I guess, if you will. When it comes down to it, is there a optimal range of deferred gain where this is? It's kind of two sides. Is there an optimal range where this is actually most beneficial? Like, is there a minimum amount before it's like, oh, if that's all the deferred taxes you have, just go ahead and pay it. It's better to do that because either of administrative costs, etc. And do I still get the step up in basis upon death?
Yes. So no, you don't get the stepped up basis upon death, but yes, you get a new depreciation schedule. A 1031 exchange, you travel, right? Which means if you had a deal for 27 and a half years, you're fully depreciated. If you sell and do a 1031 exchange, you have that same depreciation schedule. But if you buy that same deal through a deferred sales trust, you get a brand new depreciation schedule. So you give up one over the other. The other part I'd point out about the new stepped up in basis is, who's to say it's still going to be there, right? The recent
that's true. Good point.
This is true, right? 22 trillion, Jay. Who's paying for that?
Yeah, right.
22 trillion, right? And second, they talked about taking away the 1031 exchange. Okay,
yeah.
They didn't do it. We're happy they didn't do it, but who's to say that they're not going to take it away?
Good point.
They talked about eliminating or limiting the stepped up basis. So if you're hanging on just for the stepped up basis, the other thing is you could ill time it, right? Even if your heirs get a stepped up basis, the marketplace could be down by.
Let's be clear. 20%. I'm not aiming for the stepped up basis.
Totally, yeah. But it's a great question,
not the
right?
goal.
So yeah, and here's why. So the 1031 exchange is a continuity strategy. The deferred sales trust is an exit strategy. So we're literally exiting the real estate. Okay. The other part is the fees. We'll touch on it in a minute, but I do want to emphasize this really important point. Okay, we understand it. We understand that it seems like it's too good to be true, right? It seems like you would have heard about this. It seems like, and maybe you're not, Jay, because you maybe some of your listeners, right? But we want to tell you, just consider the evidence, okay? So consider a couple things. One, 23-year track record, thousands of closes. The biggest deal was $125 million, not too far from you in San Diego, of which it survived one of the 14 IRS audits. There's also been scrutiny from FINRA. We have national law firms. We have thousands of professionals across the U.S., CPAs, tax attorneys, national law firms, commercial real estate. We've done deals with Marcus and Millichap, with Colliers, with Keller Williams. So there's been a lot of eyes and ears that have looked at this. Beyond that, the tax attorney provides audit defense for the life of the trust. Okay? And the next question is, how do I know my funds are protected? How do you know Brett's not going to take them and just go to Mexico with my $10 million, right?
Well, if you take them, please go further or someplace even better.
Yeah, I want to find you in Mexico. Yeah, so
go somewhere where I would want to find you, right? I don't know, Fiji. Yes, let's go there.
Yes. So the funds only ever move, Jay, with your signature, right? Just like if you walked in with your financial advisor and you said, here's $6 million instead of 10, they don't move without your signature. So we have all the protections in place. You have 24/7 access to view the funds. The funds are held at some of the largest banks in the world: TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, Bank of New York Mellon. And then the last part is consider the evidence, the thousands of closes, but more than that, bring in your trusted advisors to make sure you're good. Okay, so we covered all that, because I know a lot of people, until they get over that, it's hard for them to go to the next step, which what are the fees? So what are the fees? Okay, so the first time fee is to the one-time fee, one time only. Is to the tax attorneys. It's 1.5% on the first $1 million and 1.25% on anything above.
Okay.
So let's just say it was a $5 million deal.
And that's but you said that's one time. Not there is no additional load after that for that particular provider.
Yeah, for that particular J Mass, if you had 10 deals on your first $1 million, you're paying 1.5. Anything above that, any of them are all going to be 1.25.
Got it.
We've had some really, 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 really big deals, right? $50, $80 million. Then it's maybe a little bit lower, right?
Understood.
So that's between the tax attorney and the note holder and the particular complexities of that case. Okay. Second fee, that's the Capital Gains Tax Solutions. That's my company here. So we're the trustee. We charge 50 basis points.
Okay. Once
a year, annually recurring. So at close of escrow, and then once a year recurring on the funds.
On the funds or the value of the so on the cash value that's left in there, or on the value of the assets in the trust?
Let's say you cashed out of $1 million, Jay, and now the 5 is worth 4. It's on the 4. Let's say it grew to 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Well, it's on the 7, right? So just depending on whatever proceeds are at that annual date. Okay. As long as it's with the financial advisor. So if it's 100% with the financial advisor, it's just 50 basis points. Okay. If you go into a real estate deal, it doubles. It goes from 50 basis points to 100%. So let's imagine you took $1 million and you bought a deal. Well, you're no longer paying financial advising fees, but for that particular $1 million, it's 1%. Okay. 1%. Now the last fee is to the financial advisor, which are somewhere around 1%. It could be 50 basis points. It could be 1%.
So they're going to treat that like assets under management on the entire portfolio, then.
You got it. So most of our notes, Jay, earn 8. After fees, they net 6.5.
Understood.
Just kind of depends on where and how the funds are invested. Now, we can't guarantee those things, but you fill out what's called a risk tolerance questionnaire. And if you're married, you fill, your wife, and you will fill it out. It's a 2-page questionnaire, and that becomes the constitution for how and where the funds are invested. Okay, and it answers questions like, what's your experience with stocks? What's your experience with bonds? When do you need the money? All of these things. And that becomes the constitution. So every time we look at an investment, we say, well, does that fit the risk tolerance questionnaire?
Right.
How does this, and is it within the diversification and all the other things that Jay Massey wanted when he set up this Deferred Sales Trust? So as a trustee, that's my role. I'm going to go to the financial advisor. I'm going to say, financial advisor, how are we doing? Is it meeting these criteria? How is our performance? I'm going to file a tax return. You're going to receive a 1099, and you're going to file that with your personal CPA. The trust is going to file its own tax return on behalf of the trust. And away you go. You just keep going. At the end of 10 years, by the way, most of our notes are for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, you can renew for 10, and then renew for 10, and just keep doing that. And then your kids can inherit your position. It becomes an asset inside your living trust.
Got it. Now,
so
can that? Well, here's what's going through my head at this moment. Is there anything to prevent me from working with one of my self-directed qualified plans in combination with this?
Good question. So will they just be a partner in your deal? So you're the managing member of an LLC, and they're just a partner in your deal?
Yes, that's kind of where I'm headed. Yes.
Yep, should be no problem. Yep, you can have as many partners in the deal, and And one of them happens to be the Deferred Sales Trust, Jay Massey's, and the other one is that. It shouldn't be any issue there.
Wow. Okay. I like it. I mean, like I said, I think I can nerd out on this particular topic for quite some time. Absolutely love exactly what you're doing. Ultimately, you're providing a solution that a lot of people have never heard of and hope to one day be able to use, but even using it one time can have such a great impact. Now, for those that have listened this far and want to find out more about what you guys got going on and want to catch up with you online even, what's going to be the best way for them to track you down?
Yes, it's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, and you can go to Bigger Pockets, you can go to YouTube, you can go to LinkedIn. But Jay, can I also touch on, we touched on the principal, can we touch on the business professional right now? Because I know you probably have a lot of business brokers,
go for
real
it.
estate professionals. Here's the big thing for you guys right now, right? And this is actually the heart of what we do. We want to empower the business professional, add massive amounts of value so they can earn more business, okay, and help a lot of people out. So our educational platform is just that. We educate at no cost. And we train you on the Deferred Sales Trust, okay? So that when you walk in for a listing presentation, you have a backup plan for a failed 1031. You have an alternative for the business owner who wants to sell. And when you are empowered with this strategy, you can earn more business. So if you're a business broker, a financial advisor, a realtor, a 1031 qualified intermediary, any of these things, you can help people out a lot. And the next thing has to do with automation. So technology is challenging the business value proposition of every professional out there right now. Mm-hmm. And it's squeezing fees, and it's saying, why are you valuable? Why should I pay you your fee? You know, what are you going to do to earn this fee? And what we can say, I think hands down, this Deferred Sales Trust is the most tangible, proven track record based upon a 90-year-old tax law that adds tangible value right now. Somewhere between 30 and 50% of their gain is going to be wiped out by capital gains tax and depreciation recapture. And when you can walk into an opportunity and at least just give them a backup plan, or at least just give them an alternative, right, you just add substantial value and you separate yourself from all of the noise. There's a lot of noise out there that wants to say, get on front page of Google, just do 3D drones, do all that. And that's all really important. And I'm a commercial real estate broker by trade. And nothing I love more than creating a beautiful marketing package, analyzing the numbers, and walking through how to make sense of a deal with value add opportunities, okay? But that being said, what are you going to do about that 30 to 50%? How are you going to solve their biggest expense? And by the way, this is probably their biggest deal they've ever done. So how are you going to help them save the most amount of an expense on the biggest deal they've ever done, and then diversify, get liquid, and then be able to go back and do another deal when they want to. So business professionals, please reach out to us. We love to educate and be with you to help add more value and help you grow your business.
Yeah. I mean, what you guys are doing, what you're bringing to the table, it's not even something you have to use more than once to to justify its purpose and or existence. And I'm just grateful that individuals, entrepreneurs, superheroes like you take the time to educate themselves on these things, but most importantly, then turn around and share it as well. Now, as we wind down, I've got a final question for you because I'm curious to hear your answer. Here's what I know about those that have listened. They started today when they were listening in one place, and now they're about to end up in a completely different place. And over the time listening, they're like, oh, wow, that's something I can do. Oh, I didn't know that. And they're at what I like to call the precipice of decision. And like I know, Brett, that when we get to, because we're human, when we get to that precipice, oftentimes we have a companion, and that companion comes in the form of a voice. And it's a voice that reminds us, that can't be true. This won't work. It won't work for you. It'll work for other people. And for some people, they're related to that voice. So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that this time it's going to be different. This time they're actually going to follow through. They're going to do exactly what you say, and they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. What would you suggest that they do?
Wow, great question. Take massive amounts of action and focus on whatever that is that you're trying to achieve, right? So if it happens to do with adding value with the Deferred Sales Trust, connect with me. Attend one of my seminars, webinars, sign up with us. It doesn't cost you anything, right? just present it for the first time, have me on a conference call with one of your clients to discuss this. Start to get educated in whatever it is that you want to achieve. And then, of course, have a mentor who can encourage you, right? If you're not getting the voices in your life that are speaking life into you and encouragement and praying for you, and if you're a believer, get it now. It's so important, right? It's so easy to just go to the path of least resistance and try to do this alone. But we were created to be in community and to connect with one another. And so seek that out. Be proactive about it. Even my wife's she's really shy, and I'm the extrovert, right? And so we just went to this event in Wenatchee, Washington. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a beautiful place with beautiful people. And she was very, very, kind of reluctant to go. And I said, no, these are going to be some great people. Her name was Melanie. I said, these are great people, and I think you really want to go. I'm not sure. We got 5 kids. Who's going to watch them? I go, I'll work it all out. My mom's going to watch 2. Let's get your mom to watch 2. We got 5 kids. It's not
divide and conquer, baby.
Hey, watch the kid. Kids. It's 5 of them. So we got. Anyway, so we made it work out, and we just had a wonderful time. Met amazing people, and she opened up, and she was so glad she went. So even if you're the introvert, get out there and connect with people, and that's it. That would be it. Just
Awesome.
Go do it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of know what you got to do. Just go do it.
I love it 100%. I like exactly what you guys are doing, what you represent, and you know what? Just let me be one of the first just to say thanks for taking the time to share your knowledge, your insight, and your wisdom here with us today at the Cashflow Diary, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jay, for having me. It's been just amazing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? Well, today, that means get over to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Why? Because that equity, that money, that what you are building is absolutely valuable. You know that. That's why you started in the first place. Now you have another tool in your belt. Now, and I understand you may need to listen to this episode a couple of times, maybe even share it with your tax professional. Doesn't matter. Do it because it's worth it to you, your family, your future, your legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.